Alrighty, we are now live. So hi Sandy, how you doing? We're
Hi,
waiting
Sandy.
for Brent. That's why we were waiting a little longer. So she's on. Yes.
I'm thinking. That's where he was last week.
So yeah, Brent's right there. So that's that's Brent right there. So Brent might sit over here this time. I'm not so hard to tell.
Brent could sit all the way over here.
Depends on wherever Freddie puts her thing, because like I say, we're still not sure if Freddie's a double O or not. So until we know this for sure, that. So we are welcome to our last session on apologetics. And I have to tell you that for the last 8 weeks or so, I have been delving into the most incredible stupidity that I have ever been around in my life. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I am so grateful that God gave us something that made sense. And so we can pray now and get started. Figure out, okay, who's got the money at where Brent's gonna sit. So
No, are we live yet?
we are live. Yes, we are live.
It's because you're my family that I allow this.
That's right. That's right.
Have some water.
So
I was a little thirsty.
we had the
I'll say you were.
so we did have the thing I was telling people you have to put in $2 to be able to figure out to be able to put your time in for when Lynn was going to come this morning. So I figured we can do the 50-50 raffle and all that. But anyway, let me pray for us, then we'll get started. So Father, I thank you so much for this evening. I thank you for each person that's here. I do pray for those who are traveling, especially for Tom, that you would keep him safe on the road, and that he would have he would have a good time. Pray for Sue as Tom is gone, that things would go well at home. I do pray for Sandy as she is not able to join us. I pray that you would bless her and her family, and Lord, just that she would know that, and they would all know that you are there with them. Pray that you would guide our discussion, and Lord, I just thank you and I give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. I was going to pray that God would keep me from getting sarcastic, but I figured I shouldn't do that if it's probably not going to work. So,
Not put the Lord your God.
exactly, I want to test him. So that's right. Do not put the Lord your God in the test. So, anyway, what we are looking at the final of our cults, and this is actually kind of the end of this kind of this session. So next week we're not meeting. My sister's going to be here. Pray for me, and then. And then we come back, we're going to go back, we're going to start looking at our Bible. So we're going to take a look at how we got our Bible, the history of the Bible, kind of things like that. And so the history we're going to do it in a way I've never done before, so I'm kind of excited about that. And mostly a little nervous, but also excited about it. So yes, Brent.
The reason I'm raising my hand is I'm going to invite my manager.
Okay.
Because he had some questions a while back, and I mentioned this time. I mentioned the time that we had early on when we went through it. So what I'm getting at here is we're going to reconvene on the 29th?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm getting down here.
Yes. I'm getting, if that's 2 weeks from tonight, yes.
It is.
Okay, then yes, we're meeting on the 29th. Okay, because yeah.
There we go.
So anyway, so we are going to look at the cult. I call it the cult of climate change. And so in order to kind of get us started, let's turn to Romans chapter 1, just to kind of get our minds set in a good place. If I can get somebody to read verses 18 through 25 of Romans chapter 1.
The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse. For although they knew God, neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like mortal man, and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over in their sinful desires in their hearts to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen.
Okay. This is the clearest description, and we actually go on if we wanted to in Romans 1, but this is the clearest description of the spirit of the age. That we talk about the spirit of the age is what is that which upholds the kingdom of the world. And Paul lays that out for us. I have an entire sermon on the spirit of the age and the series in Romans. But that all the things that we've looked at, we've been looking at the cult so far, it just lays up on this. It's all about me. It's all about humanity. It's all about humans. Okay, and the one thing that is that's gone with all of these is an omnipotent creator, is the God who is in charge. And so that whether you're looking at a theistic cult or a naturalistic cult, ultimately they come back down to the same area, to the same basic thing. It all comes back down to me. And these cults have been around forever. That like I say, I mean, Baal, what we're studying tonight is all it is sanctified Baal worship. Baal was the god of the weather. He was the god of the climate. And so I say to people all the time that Baal is still here. We just call it something different. And so I had some choices on how to go about this. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I do this in a way and not get too snarky? And then I realized that that's probably not going to fly anyway. So how can I do it and have fun? Because like I say, I've spent the last 8 weeks just dealing with, and unfortunately I get maybe 8 to 10 times what I actually present. So just imagine the garbage that I have presented to you is only a small fraction of the garbage that I have been reading over the last couple of weeks. And at this point in time, my brain was about ready to go. And this is spring ahead day or week, which at least in the Earhart house, I've said this before, a great day for the cats, not a great day for the humans. And I am starting to feel it today. So what I thought I would do is I thought we would just kind of take a ride through history. And we're going to look at the incredible claims that have been made by science. That's trademarked. Just so you know, okay, there's science, and then there's science. Follow the science. When we say follow the science, it's trademarked. So I actually call it science. So now, just so we know, okay, that and I bring this up because it's the same elitist idiots who are going to push this stuff are the same people who are pushing the COVID stuff, and that is as nice as I can possibly be. Okay, because it's more than naivete. Because like I say, it's not that these folks don't know more than me. That's not what bothers me. It's the fact that I know that they know more than I do. Okay? So if I am just somebody who just does research, can look around and find things, I cannot figure out why people who actually have it in front of them can't see it. Okay? So the same dire predictions from, say, the ones that came out in 2020 from England, from the guy who ended up schlepping his girlfriend and had to and actually had to step down, who was saying that we were going to have millions and millions of deaths in America, right? He was off by a little bit, and now that they're actually going back and redoing the stuff, he's off by a lot. Okay, so we're finding that actually only about 10 to 15% of the deaths of COVID are actually from COVID. So he was off a little bit. But yeah, we still run with it. So what I thought we would do is I'm going to start in the 1960s. And we're going to go from not all, but just a smattering of claims that were made by well-known, well-respected experts. Follow the experts, right? How many times have we heard that? Follow the experts even when they're completely wrong. So, let's start off in 1969. 1969. It was a good year. It's a good year. It's a very good year.
When you say the experts,
Yeah, there's
you mean
certain-
the people
there's
who
certain
govern
people-
us? Are they the experts?
No, this could be scientists. This could be, yeah, this will all be our elites. Okay? Because like I say, I mean, that we don't actually, that's why I want to make sure, I'm not saying scientists, because real scientists don't buy this garbage. Okay? Just like real scientists don't buy the garbage we've had in the last 2 years. That it's the elites and that who are peddling a narrative knowing that it's wrong. Okay, so these guys are the same elite. So I want to make sure I put a major distinction there because you will not find an actual scientist saying this. So first one, this is the New York Times, Sunday, August 10th, 1969, from Palo Alto, California. This is Robert Reinhold. He says the trouble with almost all environmental problems, says Paul E. Ehrlich, the population biologist, is that by the time we have enough evidence to convince people, you're dead. And if we read a little further, it says, we must realize that unless we are extremely lucky, everyone will disappear in a cloud of blue steam in 20 years. 1969.
We're all gone.
What?
What that means is we're all lucky, guys. We're all lucky.
Did I miss the blue steam?
Yeah, because I lived in California, well, actually I was in Germany in the 80s. So it's a different world in Europe. Yes?
What was his caution against mankind?
Basically, he's saying that we're going to have a catastrophic explosion fueled by runaway population growth, a limited world food supply, and contamination of the planet by man. So this is the beginning of we're going to destroy the world. And so this is what it's all going to come down to. It's all going to come down to the fact that they're all going to make the claim that humans can destroy the world. And then we're going to talk about that at the end. So anyway, Boston Globe. Boston Globe, Thursday, April 16th, 1970. Scientist predicts a new ice age by the 21st century. Air pollution may obliterate the sun and cause a new ice age in the first third of the next century. He says the demands for cooling water will boil dry the entire flow of rivers and streams of the continental United States. We're freezing, guys. We're freezing. Okay, remember, trust the experts. This is science, trademarked. So YouTube, if you're watching this, I'm showing you these. These are the actual stuff from the papers. Okay, I'm just simply reading them. These are not my things. I'm just reading what they had to say. So, the same guy, that's why I have it. It even says it. What it is. Okay, I printed them out. So, here's the Daily Facts. This is from Redlands. Redlands, California, October 6, 1970. This is the same Dr. Paul Ehrlich. He's a biologist concerned about the planet. He says it does need saving. Ehrlich predicts that the oceans will be as dead as Lake Erie in less than a decade. Oceans died, folks, in 1980. See, this is why Jesus was coming back to Point Loma when he did. Think about this. Okay, they must have known something. They were following to science. Trademarks. America will be subject to water rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1980. We got to do something.
Because of global cooling.
Yes, we got to raise your taxes because that's how we fix it.
We're going to run out of water because of cooling.
Exactly, yes. Because we're going to boil the water and that's going to get rid of everything. Okay. we have another. This is in 1971, Washington Post, July 9th, 1971. I won't read all these, but it's just, so Dr. S.I. Rasool of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and Columbia University, a scientist, right? This is an expert. Follow the experts. In the next 50 years, the fine dust man constantly puts into the atmosphere by fossil fuel burning could screen out so much sunlight that the average temperatures could drop by 6 degrees. If sustained over several years, 5 to 10, he estimated. Such a temperature decrease could be sufficient to trigger an ice age. Follow the science.
Is this gonna morph to global warming at some point?
Yeah, we're gonna, yeah, because what's gonna happen is,
Because it didn't happen.
what's gonna happen is that, okay, now this is Dan's theory, okay, is that we know that God has a really, really sarcastic sense of humor, okay, and that's one thing I really appreciate about God. He's got a warped sense of humor. And so when they were in the 70s, I remember this growing up. We're all going to die from global cooling. The ice age is coming, and all that. And so what this is what I envision. Probably it may not be that way. This is what I envision. Okay, I envision the Father, or actually probably Son. Jesus looking at his Father and saying, "Dad, are you sure that they bear our image? Because they're pretty dumb." Okay. And what are we going to do about this? And so when I see the Father turning to his Son and saying, "Son, let's just kind of let this roll for a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and we're gonna when they're totally fixed on this thing, turning their back on me, telling themselves how powerful they are, I'm going to turn up the heat." Because that's exactly what he does. So whether or not that conversation went on in the throne room, the point is, it could have. Okay, it's like, in the wintertime, Florida never wanted Al Gore in the 90s and the early 2000s. Florida never wanted Al Gore to go there in the wintertime because every time Al Gore went to Florida, they had a freeze. It was just it was uncanny that all I had to see was headlines, "Freezing in Florida." I'm looking, okay, where's Gore? And it turns out he's in Tallahassee or he's somewhere. And it's everywhere he went. There was freezing. It was kind of like Frozen, It was Elsa. You want to say something? What's that?
As he was preaching global warming.
Yeah. So we are gonna, but we have to get there first. Okay. We need some patience.
Okay.
Because remember, right now we're all dead.
Okay.
Okay, because it all died in.
It's hard to have patience.
1970 something.
Yeah, in
1989.
In 1989, okay, 1989, it was a blue flame, whatever it is, we're all gone. Because that was, but the good news is it's cooler, right? And so, this is from Brown University, December 3rd, 1972. The main conclusion of the meeting was that a global deterioration of climate by order of magnitude larger than any hitherto experienced by civilized mankind is a very real probability and indeed may be due very soon. So this was from a whole bunch of smart people at Brown University getting together, and they wrote this to the president. That, and of course, he's in the middle of Watergate, so he's got a lot in his mind. And so this was to get the EPA. Actually, this was all to get the EPA going. When did the EPA start? Anybody remember? Nixon, 72. Yep. Do you remember the smog free in 73? That was a big. I still remember that. That in San Diego, yes, smog free in 73. So.
Until chemtrails.
1974, space satellites show a new ice age coming fast. I'm just going to go over if you want to read the stuff here, it's here. Then in Time magazine, in June 24th, 1974, telltale signs are everywhere from the unexpected persistence and thickness of pack ice in the waters around Iceland to the southward migration of warmth-loving creatures like the armadillo from the Midwest and retirees from New England. We're going to have another ice age. So okay, I threw the retirees in, but they all go down to Florida, right? So because we got an ice age coming, okay. We have a great peril to life. Gas pares away the Earth's ozone. So the ozone's going down. And so, of course, we even have graphs. Okay, you know what I found out about graphs? Is that if you want to make money as an artist, you work for any evolutionary museum, natural history museum. We saw that with with what we found with Ramapithecus and so on, right? And what they showed up with. But the same thing is true for graphs. And I was looking at graphs all over the place, and it's insane that then I actually look at what they came up with, I look at the graphs, and they have no bearing whatsoever. Again, not that we have seen any of that in the last couple of years, but just in case. So I will not be the event that shall not be named. So in July 18th, 1976, we have the cooling. So writes Stephen Schneider, a young climatologist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in the Boulder, Colorado, reflecting the consensus of the climatological community. When you don't have science, and if you want to have tough science, the way you get tough science, trademark, is to have consensus. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. Whenever you hear somebody say, the consensus is this, do two things. First of all, look for the exact opposite of what they're saying. The second thing is that hold on to your wallet because the taxes are going up. But whenever you hear the consensus is, because here's the thing, folks, does science care about consensus? No.
The consensus in Galileo's day was that the Earth was the center of the universe, and then he found Jupiter.
Yes. Yeah. And although it's interesting, they're actually finding out that the Earth is actually pretty close to the center. We're not at the center, but we're actually pretty close to it.
Yes,
That's
but at
what
least in that day, little things orbiting around another.
Well, I mean, as
body.
far
That
as the solar system was the problem. They were saying that everything revolved around the Earth.
Yeah.
And so, so we were the center of the solar system, not so much the universe. Anyway, so in 1974, Schneider and Bryson tried to explain to a White House policymaking group why conditions are likely to worsen. One of the most depressing anecdotes in the book is Schneider's description of the deaf ear their warnings recede. In other words, somebody in the White House finally did something right. So, and then of course we went for global cooling because that wasn't working. Because we stopped cooling. So of course, what happened after that? We all remember this, right? Acid rain. Okay, remember acid? Acid rain has killed all life in the lakes. That's from Noblesville Ledger in Noblesville, Indiana, in 1980. I can remember this. Acid rain is it actually says acid rain, no environmental crisis study concludes. They found this out 10 years later. So 10 years of going through a bunch of garbage about acid rain, a whole bunch of regulations, a whole bunch of restrictions, and not to mention a whole lot of bureaucracy and tax increases, because that's what it's all about, and taking away freedoms. They finally realized 10 years later, the United States government program formed to study acid rain concluded it doesn't exist. It's not, has no bearing whatsoever on the environment.
They push that in school so much.
Yep, because remember, follow the experts. I'm going to hammer that, okay? Because that's the thing is, nothing has changed, okay? All we're doing is putting lipstick on the pig, okay? Yeah.
I can remember from the later 80s, there was a political cartoon called Reagan's America, and the Pacific Northwest had been labeled Acid Rainia.
Yes. Okay, so acid rain didn't work. So we went back to a tried and true thing and they went back. This is September 6, 1990, and they were going back, and they went back to 1978. They said no end in sight to the 30-year cooling trend. So now we're going back to a tried and true. Now we're going back to now we're getting cold again. Okay. And then this is for you, Aaron. This is for you. According to NASA satellite data, there's a slight warming trend since 1979. So
When did that come out?
this was 1990.
Oh, we just,
January 5th, first was 1978, this one came out in 1990.
1990, there's a warming trend,
Yep, from 79 to 1990.
going back to the 70s.
Yes. Because remember, all the 70s were about the fact that we're all gonna freeze. Okay, we're all gonna be building igloos down in San Diego. And because in 1980 we had snow in San Diego. I remember this. Santee, California, we're going out there, we had snow. And there was a great big deal about the fact that, see, global cooling is working. And I was talking to a friend of mine, I was talking to my aunt, who's a Sierra Club member, and I loved her, but she was nuts. Anyway, so she's talking to me about how, see, we got snow. And I remember looking at her, I said, Aunt Laurie, where you been? Well, what do you mean? I said, do you remember a little event that took place up in Washington in 1980? Like just a couple of months ago? What was that? It's a thing called Mount St. Helens. And so we also had a whole bunch of ash that fell at that same time. Have you seen the sun much? Oh, no. I said, okay, maybe since it got cooler everywhere on the West Coast, that might be why we had a little bit of snow. We had flurries. It was pretty exciting. Trying to build a snowman in flurries. Yeah, it's not gonna work. But yeah, remember we have to get rid of critical thinking. Okay, this was true. I remember Rush, who I'm not a big fan of when he was on there. I don't downplay his role in changing society, but he ran a commercial. It was great. It was Al Gore. That says, and this summer it's going to be hotter than it has been all year long. And so, that his commercials were worth the show. They really was. The commercials were insane. He did that "Can't Fit the Cradle," trying to get his kid out of the house. Anyway, so it starts to warm. Okay, so now we have a cool graph that shows it's starting to warm. Now I'm going to say there's actually some reasons why it started to warm in 1979. And that is the fact that when they first started putting up weather stations that would measure the climate, they would put them up in rural areas. Okay, what happened from the 79 in its 70s and all that? You have people coming in there, the rural places. You have the suburbs started to grow. So one of my favorite weather stations that it's in Manchester, in the UK. When they first put it up, it was in a field. Just, I don't know, British cows. It didn't have mad cow disease floating around it. And then they put an airport in. You know what they didn't do? They didn't move the weather station. So now they got a weather station at an airport on a parking lot. And you know what? It's a little bit warmer. So my favorite one, which I searched all day, I searched for 2 days trying to find the photo. I used to have the photo when it got crashed on one of my computers. And that was the one that was right outside of a major mall, right next to an air conditioner vent.
What was next to it?
It was a weather station that was coming up and so it was sending back data, and it was next to an air conditioner vent at a mall. On asphalt. Okay, so the thing is, so bottom line, basically what we're looking at is the fact that when it comes back to data, right, we don't know. So even on the warming, whatever it is, we really don't know. That because when you're putting stuff out there on asphalt, it's going to be a little bit warmer. And so it doesn't, and remember that the climate's only going up a little bit. So it doesn't take a whole lot of weather stations sitting out there right next to jet engines going off that may not get a little bit warmer. But anyway, I digress. So, where are we here?
1990.
We're 1990. Okay, yeah. So we have a 19. The number of hot days in the DC area. Okay, then we're going to. Where are we now? Now we're going to. We have a threat to the islands in the Maldives. Because now we got global warming, okay? Because what happened, remember, in 1979, they began to realize, hey, no, we're not cooling. We've had this gradual rising. Okay, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. Ozone off. We're not gonna freeze. Now we're gonna roast. And so now we turned it over to global warming. And so, of course, global warming, we're going to have the gradual rise in average sea level that's threatening to this Indian Ocean nation of 1,196 small islands within the next 30 years, according to authorities. But the end of the Maldives and its 200,000 people could become sooner if drinking water supplies dry up by 1992, as predicted. So now we're in 1988. Yeah, so 1992, the Maldives are not going to have any water. And they're all going to be underwater. Now, I follow a group, a family, who is sailing Zatara. And so I do the yacht thing that way. I get yacht commercials on my Facebook page instead of other things I don't like. And so they're funny. They're actually in the Maldives right now. So it's really kind of interesting. They're showing these beautiful, beautiful islands that are completely underwater, apparently. And so...
Dry to the bone.
Yeah, and so of course, the islands are still dying, and it was really interesting. They were actually talking about this. The islands in the Maldives are actually made of sand, and most of them are man-made. So you know what happens to sand when water comes up? Yeah, it kind of erodes a little bit. So yeah, anyway, but they just put some more sand on it. They're fine. So because we find out that the number of warm days in DC, the area peaked in just got cut off here. I want to say 1977. No, I'm sorry, 19 something one. I'm sorry, I don't have a date on this thing. I cut the date off. I'm so sorry. Real Science Climate. So now once we started saying this, that we're gonna warm. Then they realized that, no, it really isn't warming. But it could be warming because we have global warming. And we should all be afraid of global warming because we have global warming and we're all going to die. And the fact that the climate's not really warming doesn't really matter. Because remember, trust the experts. Follow the science. Follow the science. Science, trademark, that's right, exactly. Okay. So in 1989, we got rising seas are now going to obliterate the nations by 2000. So we got nations that are gone.
What year?
This is 1989. 1989. Yeah, so when you read this, it's small print. This is Associated Press, June 30th, 1989. The UN environmental official says entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if the global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. Folks, Australia is gone. Okay, we now have kangaroos who are feeding great white sharks. Okay.
I got this picture of a beach taken in 1915 with people, I can't find it, with people on it, and taken recently. The same beach with people on it.
Yeah, that's why.
I mean, it's.
Now, the good news is in 2019, according in 1989, we find that New York City's West Side Highway is going to be underwater by 2019. So, just so you know that. 2019, we now have gondolas in New York. Okay. Yeah, it's just, it's Venice, I guess. So, and of course we know this because we have a graph that lays this out for us because after all, this, my friends, is the science. Okay, I mean, do you want grandma to die? Okay, I mean, really, okay. Drown, that's right, sir, thank you. Do you want grandma to drown? So we got to do something, okay, because they're all going down. And I have a graph to prove it, so if I have a graph to prove it, therefore we know it's true, yes. Because this is, after all, the science.
It's certain.
What's that?
Certain.
No, it's not certain. It's a consensus, which is more important than certainty. Okay, consensus trumps certainty. Okay, we know that. If we got a bunch of bureaucrats who have a consensus with a title after their name, therefore it must be true. And since this is before Twitter, Okay, it's a little harder. Once it goes on Twitter, we know it's done.
We don't peer review science anymore, none of that.
What's that?
Don't peer review any science, don't like.
Well, some of my favorite, and I didn't bring it because that would be a little bit harsh even for me, is that one of my favorites is a peer-reviewed study that this guy turned in a couple of seriously bogus and crazy, like you know, that love between a human being and a dog is real, and therefore we should allow marriages before this. That thing got peer-reviewed and appeared in peer-reviewed magazines. This guy just wanted to show it. He just wanted to put it out there and say, okay, if you throw enough buzzwords out there, you can get anything peer-reviewed. So when I hear people say, I need something peer-reviewed, I say, you know what, I would rather have something be accurate than have a bunch of elitist bureaucrats telling me that, yeah, I like this. So, because he actually turned in three papers to three different journals, scientific journals for peer review, got all three of them passed, got them published. And then the guy came out and said, yeah, I got to tell you guys are a bunch of idiots. So, you can't buy memories like this. You know, listening to that, and then listening to them, watch them try to backtrack on this was absolutely absurd. But he waited until they actually published it, saying how great it was. And they had all kinds of great statements. The dog love thing was the funniest, because they were going on back and forth about how the connections go on. There was scientific stuff behind it, and the brain waves working and stuff like that, and so they should be allowed to marry and things like that. Was just, and these people are writing back out and saying how insightful this was and things like that. The guy just said, you know, dude, man, did you think about what I actually wrote? So anyway, so now we're in, remember, it's still getting warmer. Aaron. So, Britain's gonna be Siberia now in less than 20 years. Okay, so this is we're in February 21st, 2004. Okay, so now we've gone up because we had some warming that wasn't happening. So now Britain's going to be Siberia. Britain is plunged into a Siberian climate by 2020. Nuclear conflict, mega droughts, famine, and widespread rioting will erupt across the world. They missed it by a couple of years with Black Lives Matter. But other than that, the rioting. Other than that, they were good. So, I'm sorry, your country's going to be Siberia.
I know.
That's just really sad. I
checked
mean,
it out.
what are they going to do at Wimbledon?
I don't know.
It's just maybe that's why they put the roof on.
Ice skate, yeah, anything, you know, make it a nice restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for the Norwegians.
Sound like warming.
Because it wasn't warm. Okay, it wasn't warm, so we had to go back cooling. Okay? I mean, maybe Al Gore decided to build a house there. I mean, we don't know. So, what's that? I don't know where he is. He's actually in his house that's spewing out all kinds of carbon emissions right now. Anyway, so according to NASA scientists, this is Tuesday, June 24th, 2008. Well, I'm almost done, guys. That a NASA scientist says we're toast. This scientist says we see a tipping point occurring right before our eyes. The scientist told the AP before the luncheon. The Arctic is the first tipping point, and it's occurring exactly the way we said it would, because after all, they're the experts, and they have such an insane track record of being right. They have a consensus. Hansen, echoing the work by other scientists, said that in 5 to 10 years, the Arctic will be free of sea ice in the summer. 2008. So 5 to 10 years, there's no sea ice. If only the Titanic would have been late a couple of years, they would not have hit the iceberg, because there would have been no iceberg up there.
Isn't that what's going to make the water rise, the ice melting?
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense, because it's a zero-sum game.
I have a glass of water with ice in it.
Yeah, I did this year. I actually tried this. I filled my glass with ice the other day, and I put water in it. And you know what? I came back in the morning, and I had the water at the same level. It was crazy. It was like, I'm not trusting the science. I need to find an expert that could tell me what I was doing wrong.
Gee,
And
why does ice float?
you know,
Could it be that it's less dense than liquid water?
we're trying to.
critical thinking.
I know, I'm sorry.
And then of course we had the famous one.
Turn off your.
We had the famous one when Al Gore predicted that the polar ice cap would be gone and that the world would end in 10 years, right? That was actually, Russia actually had a timeline thing, a countdown for the whole 10 years. It was pretty on his website. And it was, I thought about going to Point Loma at the end of that because maybe Jesus was coming back. So in December 14, 2008, former presidential candidate Al Gore predicted the North Pole ice cap would be completely free of ice in five years. As reported on WUWT, Gore made the prediction to a German TV audience. That was the problem at the COP15 climate conference.
Picking on everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Tugged on your heartstrings by the polar bears swimming.
Yes, yeah, drinking Coke though. They were cute.
They're wintering.
Yeah, okay, so anyway. But of course, okay, is the North Pole still here? Last I checked, it was still here. I checked it before I left today. So unless there's something going on out here, according to Google Earth, it's still there. However, we're going to pick on everybody because, this is what we do. So in Thursday, July 9th, 2009, okay, if this doesn't make the Brits proud, I don't know what will. This is the heir to the throne said in just 96, we only have 96 months left to save the world, says Prince Charles.
Really?
Yes, we said in 2009. So when we say God save the Queen, I really do mean that. That this is what we got coming after him. So, but in 2009, the Prime Minister says we only have 50 days to save the planet. Okay, so at least Charles has given him a couple more. Charles has given the planet 46 more days. Okay, so and then of course Gore said he missed the first one. The polar ice caps can disappear by the summer of 2014. And then the Guardian says this is in July 24th, 2013. Ice-free Arctic in 2 years, and so this all fallen apart. And then I have the abstract here, which I'm not going to read. In 2013, the U.S. Navy predicts summer ice-free Arctic by 2016. So it was 2014. He just got it a little wrong. It was actually 2016. So there's no ice up there. The French foreign minister, of course, the French says we have 500 days to avoid.
Is it Oral Roberts that keeps predicting the second coming every other year? Have I got the right guy?
No, I think he's dead now.
Or
There was some televangelist.
Yeah, I don't know who it was.
That was kept moving the date out.
Yeah.
Okay, he's running better odds than these guys.
Yeah, 18 reasons why he's coming back in 2018 or something like that. I know something like that. Yeah, so anyway, so we've got the French says we got 500 days to avoid climate change. Of course, this was in 2014. And the planet, of course, is still standing 500 days after the French foreign minister warned of climate chaos. And we can go on and on. I just stopped there because after that, I just needed a drink. And so.
I recommend some ice for that.
Yeah, I do have ice water. So I'm drinking ice water because we're not going to have any. It's all gone. So I'm drinking ice water just in honor of the fact that we had no water from 1989. So, I go look, we're talking about the cult. Okay, we're talking about the cult. I wish I could pan that camera over right now. But there's water. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Chris has water. Anyway, my point is this, folks, is that this is why you can't talk rationally with people. Okay, and I hear this all the time. But the fact is, well, the Earth is going to die if we don't do something. I said, guys, that ship has sailed. I'm like, sweetheart, it died in 1989. Didn't you get the memo? From global cooling, we got trusty experts. I said, well, which experts? The one that said it was going to die in 89? The one that said it was going to die in 1992? The one who said 1996? The one who said 2000? We can go on and on. I said, this Earth is on borrowed time. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we all die. Let's all become Epicureans at this matter. If we're going to follow these guys. Always. And so, like I say, whenever I hear anybody say, follow the experts. I'm reminded the experts are, yeah, they're simply bureaucrats and elitists who know how to run your life. It's a cult. Well, yeah, that's part of that. Yes, take your freedom, take your and take your cash. So here are some trends that we've seen that we have this thing called weather. Temperature gets hot, temperature gets cold. It changes from time to time. It has changed over the course of the years. It has changed over the course of the last 6,000 years. Is this the warmest that our planet has ever been? No. How many ferns and orchids do we have growing wildly in Scotland, for example, today? None. You have Shetland sheep who have woolly fur and no brains. My brother raises them. That's how I know that. So, okay? Because it's cold there. Do you know what we have? We have fossils of orchids and ferns and all kinds of really incredible tropical plants in Scotland. The question is, how did they get there? They're plants. They didn't get on a boat and buy a ticket and show up. They grew there. So we've also seen some incredible trends. Okay, and this, again, I'm trusting the science. Okay, remember, the experts, follow the experts, trust the science. There has been global warming on Mars, Pluto, Triton, and Jupiter. And you know what trend it follows? The exact same trend that we have seen on Earth. It's a coincidence. I mean, I actually read something on this. It's just a coincidence. I'm like, dude, you know, I mean, really, you know, just this. Can somebody find this guy's brain? And this is from the National Geographic. This is 8 months. This is 8 weeks going through this, so I'm trying to be nice. I really am, but I get a little frustrated. That
We're affecting the entire solar system.
yeah. So here we had this guy whose name I cannot pronounce. He was the head of the St. Petersburg Pulkovo Astronomical Observatory in Russia. Says the Mars data is evidence that the current global warming on Earth is being caused by changes in the sun, because it's the same trend on Mars. Okay. You guys have a big Toyota, right? You guys have a powerful Toyota. Your Toyota is affecting the climate on Mars. I'll call you sir. I'll call your car sir. Because it's the greenhouse gases here on Earth that's affecting the climate on Mars. But it gets even crazier than that. From MIT on Pluto, the average surface temperature of the nitrogen ice on Pluto has increased slightly less than 2 degrees Celsius over the past 14 years. Global warming, we're all going to die on Pluto. Oh, there's nobody alive on Pluto. Okay, I guess that's good. Good news, right? Okay, there's always a silver lining. That there's nobody alive on Pluto. Since Pluto is moving further away from the sun and continuing to warm, despite that fact, it indicates that something doesn't fit into the solar constant dismissal of the theories. So this is what it gets. It's getting further away from the sun and it's still warming. How can this be?
I was wondering what that meant then.
How can this possibly be?
How could it be?
Okay, and then we have, of course, this is the space.com on Jupiter. The latest images could provide evidence that Jupiter is in the midst of a global change that can modify temperature by as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit on different parts of the globe. And then from MIT on Triton, which is one of the moons of Jupiter, since at least 1989, what's that? Saturn, right? Saturn, thank you.
Science has got to be right.
Exactly. Well, at least since 1989, Triton has been undergoing a period of global warming percentage-wise. It's a very large increase, said Elliott, professor of Earth, Atmospheric, and Planetary Sciences and director of the Wallace Astrophysical Observatory. The 5% increase on the absolute temperature scale from about minus 392 degrees Fahrenheit to about minus 389 degrees Fahrenheit would be like the Earth experiencing a jump of about 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So in other words, what we have, folks, we have global warming on at least 4 other bodies in our solar system. That's assuming that planets are moons, and we don't really know what Pluto is anymore. When I was a kid, it was a planet, and then it got demoted, and I think it just got promoted back to planet.
It's a pronoun.
Yeah, we don't know what his pronoun is either. So, but if we did, that's the bigger problem. We don't know whether it's a planet or not.
It's still at the little planets table.
Okay. So that was some impressive snark. I want you to know that. I'm in awe at this one. That was so anyway. So basically, what we're finding out is this. Okay, is that scientists have figured out something. Okay. So tough science hasn't figured it out yet, but some scientists have. There's this little or big yellow ball in the sky that actually, get this, affects the climate in our solar system. Who knew? Who knew?
It is possibly the only ball of hot gas larger than what comes out of Washington.
Okay, so here's my point, okay? And this is where, because again, I mean, I can make fun of them for the rest of the day, but I really don't want to do that. And that's,
Which, by the way, explains why the average temperature in the Washington area goes up. Congress is in session.
could be, it very, very, very well could be. Basically, every single prediction that has been made by the experts, the bureaucratic experts and the science, has been wrong. I will give you this, they're consistent.
They'll get it right one day.
Yeah. Probably not. Okay, now we do have something that actually, which is also kind of funny, we also have some things that they would look at. This is actually probably one of the closest ones that I've ever seen as far as an actual map. I was going to put it up on the TV, but I decided not to. And this actually has a cooling period not too long after and this goes back about 6,000 years, 7,000 years. Because that's how far we could, I mean, we could extrapolate back millions because we just kind of add things in. But they found out that shortly after that the Earth was at one time the Earth was incredibly warm, and then shortly after it had a huge dip in temperature, and then it started to warm a little bit more after that. I would call that the Ice Age. Can anybody think of what might have caused a drastic drop in temperature on the planet? Well, there would be some clouds. There would be, at least 40 days of them. But what all happened when the flood took place? It wasn't just water. Tectonic plates were flying all over the place. Got volcanic eruptions happening all over the place. You have a complete upheaval. And so, of course, what we know from the Ice Age is the Ice Age came obviously from the north and the south, and it came up, and it actually didn't make it all the way, it didn't cover the entire Earth. Okay, you could still have a villa in the south of France, and you could still be on the ocean and you still have decent weather. But it actually got colder in there, and that's where we saw what we know as the Ice Age. I think the Ice Age happened after the flood. I think it was actually a result of the flood. When just like in Mount St. Helens blew, that was one earthquake. Sorry, that was one volcano. And not a very big one at that. That went off, caused major cooling as far away as San Diego. A couple thousand miles, well, at least 1,000 miles away. Can you imagine what happened if you would have that volcanic eruption all over the world? I mean, this is what happens in Iceland, for example, when they go over. I mean, it affects the climate on Iceland for months. Yes?
The 1800s eruption of Krakatoa created a year without a summer.
Yeah.
That impacted one volcano impacts the whole world.
Yeah, that's actually right around here somewhere. that they were actually able to look through things. And so what you have on a lot of your experts is they talk about the fact this is the warmest it's ever been. First of all, there were no weather stations in the time of Rome and Greece. Okay, on that part, it's supposition. Remember when we were studying and we were looking at whale evolution, and we were taking a look, and they asked the guy, hey, you know what, we don't have any fluke here, we don't have any tail. And what did Gingrich say? I made it up. I thought it should. So all of what we hear about, and all that shows up in your college textbook and all that about I can't remember the guy's what that stupid whale's name is that starts in R. Anyway, Rhodocedus. That was all made up, but it still shows up in textbooks. I think that's exactly what happened. But we can find out. I'm a history guy, so we can find out what the climate was like back in years and years ago just by taking a look at history books and finding out how people lived. And so that's what these guys did. These guys actually went back and looked at history and said, okay, what can we come up? So it's not perfect, but they can see trends. Of course, we know in the Dark Ages, after the fall of Rome in the West, that one of the things that helped the Goths and Visigoths and all those guys come in there and just wreak havoc all over Europe was the fact it was really cold. And so there were a lot of people who died of that because they couldn't keep the crops going and so on. And so and then we had a medieval warming period, and then it got cooler again. We had that little ice age, that came up.
1400s.
Yeah, it'd be 1400s into almost into the 1700s. Yeah. And if you follow Hollywood, it happened through the 1940s because if you notice at Holiday Inn that at Christmas time there's all kinds of snow all over the place, and so I thought that's how it was in New England. There was a bunch of snow at Christmas time. That's what it said at Holiday Inn. I used to watch that all the time. I moved to Connecticut and we've only had snow on Christmas like twice in the 10 years I've been here. I'm a victim here, guys. I'm a victim. But
Hey, I used to wish for snow on my birthday, and it was 10 days before Christmas, and it was rare.
yes.
Even in the 70s when we're in danger of a little.
Yeah, when we're all dying.
Snow.
Yeah. So the point is this, okay, is that we've been warmer, we've been colder. We see that, and we have trends. I actually looked at some really fascinating stuff that I thought I didn't want to bore you with people that were actually looking at trends, natural trends. Okay, so one of the things that we look at, we have to be very, very careful. That, because remember what it comes down to, okay, is that what is the underlying presupposition behind the climate change cult? It all comes down to we can destroy the planet.
Or save it.
Or save it. Can we? No, we can't, actually. I mean, the thing is, before, I grew up in San Diego. I know what forest fires can do. Okay, forest fires that are burning millions and millions of acres are pumping up so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It is absolutely insane. So, more so than cow farts. That was a big deal recently. Yeah.
You gotta get rid of your steak. Yes. Question.
Yes.
Paul writes that the curse is devouring the earth.
Yes.
The earth grows. I might be willing to biblically submit that we are capable of wrecking the place through the curse, through the fall.
Yeah.
I do not accept the notion that we can save it.
Yeah, I think that we've seen that. We've seen that God called us that we are to be caretakers of the planet. Okay, so like I say, for us to go out there and just and for a Christian to be littering, for example, okay, is sin. Okay, not because the Sierra Club says so, but because God says we are to be caretakers. that to be dumping waste into rivers is sin. Okay, so again, I'm a conservationist in so many ways, but not for the consensus or the science or to save the planet. I am because God says that's what we're supposed to do, and so that we are here to take care of the planet, and so yeah, I'm out. It's just that because especially what we're looking at here is that if you follow the leadership. Okay, and I've said that, I've joked about this before, right? I mean, just last year, Obama and Nancy Pelosi both bought multi-million-dollar houses on the beach in Florida that was, of course, gone in 1989, but got somehow a reprieve, and now it's going to be gone in just 5 or 10 years. Really?
Well, unless they get
Really?
robotic implants, none of those people are going to live long enough for it to be flooded now.
Yeah, the point is this, is that I tend to follow these same elites. And I want to take a look, okay, what are they actually living? Okay, do we really believe what we're throwing out? No. And again, it's not that they know less than I do, it's that they know more. And so the data is here. Okay? Now, I'm a cynical person. I'm always looking, okay, what are we after? As a theologian, I have a pretty good idea what we're after. But we have to be very careful when we're looking at, and this is on all sides, okay? We need to do the work. We need to do the work. We need to stop and think about things. We need to look at history. I know people get really bored when I talk about history, but it really is important. Everything I looked at today, that's all history. And so that we can take a look at what are the trends. So let's go back to our cults. 8 tenets of cults. Okay? Does it fit? All cults have a high priest. Yeah, actually they do. They go from one to the other. It was Al Gore there for a while. Now it's Greta, what's her name? Yeah, the poor gal that's being used from Scandinavia or something like that. And and we latch on. It's also, of course, the science. It's just kind of that nebulous high priest that we go on. Is that, and again, whenever somebody is
Science is the special knowledge.
yeah, that's cults discourage, if not outright oppose, critical thinking. Okay, if you want to shut down a science class, I've done it. I know that. You just bring up some facts. I can remember the science class, that this is the 1980s. We're kind of going back and forth between global warming and global cooling. I had a professor, it's all about global cooling, acid rain kind of thing. But it's actually warming. No, it's not. Look at the data. It doesn't take long to look at. I mean,
It's your fault. You
Yes.
started.
No, I mean, it's just one of those things but it's amazing at how much people just take the expert's opinion. Okay, that's why I brought this here. If anybody wants to look at it, I just made copies of what people had to say. This way, don't take my word for it. You can read the stuff that's there. It's right there. What's that? Yeah, because the thing is, folks, it's scary. Okay, again, we're back to whenever I'm hearing something about consensus, something like that. Cults discourage, if not outright oppose critical thinking, and they isolate themselves and their members from the outside world, sometimes even forcibly. Okay, so that's what's going on in schools right now. Yes?
You can't get peer review if you have a dissenting opinion.
Yeah, I know. You can if
you go against it, and I mean, we saw this with the dude that advanced the notion of impact theory.
Yes.
For the death of the dinosaurs. He could not get peer review for a long time because he opposed the consensus.
Yes.
And you can't get peer reviewed if you say there's global cooling, there's not global warming, or anything else that is the dogma of the day.
That hasn't changed. Okay? When we get pulled off of Twitter or anything in social media, YouTube, I learned. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the names that shall not be named. And and
Well, you know what?
yes, or you know what? That you mentioned that even though there's study after study after study that says it works, okay, that you still can't mention because it doesn't fit the narrative. Okay, there's one of the things happening right now is that there's a lot of there's a case right now going before, soon go before the 11th Circuit before long. Right now it's underneath that. The military members who are fighting back over the hijab, and I just heard the attorney for them yesterday. It's absolutely fascinating. The government has called 0 witnesses. They have not made one claim. They've made a bunch of claims. They haven't supported any claims. The judge have asked them to bring in their quote-unquote experts, and they will not do it.
Is that the one with the pilots?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually,
It's,
there is a captain of a cruiser
yeah,
that
he's
just won one of these things where he wouldn't get the jet because of religious reasons.
yeah, but the point, yeah,
And the court said the Navy can't dismiss him.
yeah, but they're, I mean, again, they're finding again well, I can't say it, but yeah, I mean, just the poison that's out there. Anyway, that the Colts claim to have a special knowledge, or one that only that the special can attain their knowledge. So yeah, this is the science. Follow the science. Follow the experts. Exactly what we're seeing here. It's cold. Colts put loyalty above all else. Loyalty to the leader, loyalty to the cause, above everything else. It's where you have commanders and high generals telling doctors, you cannot, I am ordering you not to testify to what you know and what you've experienced. And these doctors have got incredible courage. They're doing it anyway. They have nothing to gain, everything to lose. Okay, even when they, I mean, it's the same thing with the global warming folks. It's the folks who are fighting it. They have nothing to gain, everything to lose. Because the ones who are making the money on it are the elitists following the cult. Yes, just like the head of the Mormon Church, the head of the Jehovah's Witnesses, those guys are multimillionaires. Yeah.
Because they're afraid that they would expose the truth.
Yeah, because remember, cults don't want the truth.
So interesting regarding that short thing. Late last night watching the news, showed a short clip of Russian newscaster, and then a woman comes from behind with a sign saying, "This is all false, it's not true, you're being lied to." She was like one of the editors or something like
Yeah.
that of the news program.
Yeah, she's unemployed right now.
Yeah, she gave up her career to expose the truth.
Yeah. Cults seek to detach you from your families. Okay. They, yeah, cults cross moral boundaries and at times encourage others to do so as well. Because here's the thing, folks, they don't care who lives or dies. Okay, I mean, they just don't care. That's what we're seeing today. Our government knows that they are systematically giving poison to people all over our country, and they just don't care. They know that this stuff on climate change and everything else is causing all kinds of pain, all kinds of heartache. They don't care. And so what do? We go on TikTok, because of course that's how we put our message out now. And we put out, TikTok puts out the talking points from the elitists. Yes, I saw that today. I was ready to throw up. Absolutely just ready to throw up.
Same with the Ukrainian war.
Yep, that's it, yeah. And there's and cults ultimately separate you from the true church.
Well,
Because
certainly with this one, because they're saying you can be God, you can change
Yes.
the planet.
Ultimately,
collectively, we can change a planet.
because you can be God. That's what it comes down to. You can be God. And so any voice outside of that must be silenced. That's why, again, when you look at the argument, the fight against the church, and I've been told this all the time, I'm a Christian, therefore I'm anti-science. As somebody who's a global warming guy said, I know more about global warming than what you do. What do you mean? That's because I've actually studied it. All you've done is heard from the experts. So you want to hear from the experts? I can tell you the experts. We can also walk down memory lane. Most of the stuff I knew, that's why I knew where to find it. Let's walk down memory lane. 1970s. We're going to die because of global cooling. 1980s, when I was in high school and in college and in the Army, it was all about acid rain. It's going to kill us. And everything else. I said, all of these are the experts. Which one of them is right? You see, they don't know. Because it comes down to, we don't do critical thinking. So here's our question. And again, folks, this is not for the world. We cannot change the world. We're not even going to attempt it. We can't change Hartford. So I'm not bringing that in. But you know what we do have? We have family members. Especially if you've got family members involved in public schools, or even most Christian schools nowadays have bought into a lot of the lies, that we can bring truth. And the biggest thing is to encourage critical thinking. And this should be the true across the board on all of these, okay, is to ask questions with gentleness and respect. I know I struggle with it at times. Not so much when I'm talking to people, I can be gentle. When I'm teaching, I have a harder time with that. But the thing is that to ask the questions, encourage people to think. Because the problem is, if you're not doing critical thinking, then you really have no hope. And that's whether you're talking to a Jehovah's Witness, whether you're talking to a Mormon, whatever it is, whoever you talk to across the board, is that let us come and reason together. Okay? Now, what this means for Christians, I'm going to step on a soapbox here for a second. That means we got to do the work. Okay? We actually have to know and do some study and look around and ask the questions. The data is there. Not hard to find. But we need to do the work. Because see, we can't listen to the experts on our side either. Okay, because then we just go back and forth. And we end up on a whatever political side we're on, an R or a D or whatever it is. And, we have to get some certain person in for Supreme Court justices. It's on one side and whatever. We actually have to do the work so we can talk to our kids, we can talk to our family members, we can talk to our friends. So let's reason together and let's find out what's true. So let's not argue back and forth over our talking points. Let's actually find out what's true. See, if I can establish that the experts have been wrong since 1967, then I can ask the question, is it reasonable for me to think that they might be wrong now? I'm not even asking if it's a foregone conclusion. I'm just asking, is it reasonable to question them? Then I think it is. If you have somebody who's willing to think, then we can say, okay, let's find out what's actually going on. Thoughts on that? Comments?
I think you're right. I think a lot of people do question because they know they've lived and they've seen. Like I was told this in the 90s and the 80s, and here I am. But they hear it on TV all the time, over and over and over again. And I think, like what you said this Sunday, there's more of us than them.
Well, yeah, there's more on our side, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because if we have the truth behind us, there's definitely more on our side. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the problem becomes, in the 70s and 80s, up through the 70s and 80s and early 90s, you had newspapers, you had magazines,
Yes.
you had TV, you had radio. The problem is the overwhelming flow in the internet age and the 24/7 news cycle age has made it like wading through this much manure.
Yeah, because we don't actually have news, we have propaganda.
Yes, and that's the problem, is the propaganda flow is so deep and wide
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's why,
It's almost, I would say almost impossible to have a discussion about truth because
I was driving down the highway today, and even billboards today, back in the day, they used to have to hang paper up.
oh yeah,
Now they're all digital.
yeah.
Now they can just throw a message up there real quick, somebody just driving by and see that's property.
Yeah, that's why it's so much more important for us to, do we have the time to look at everything? No, we don't. Okay, no, I mean, I might get paid to do this. And fortunately, I enjoy the research, and so I get paid to do this, and I have X amount of time when I'm not bothering Freddie and keeping her from doing her job, that I can actually do this. And, but we do have to look at whatever's trending in our world, especially when it comes to, for those who may still have kids at home or who are in school, is, and I can't tell you how important this is, know what's in there, read the science books. That I had fun with Rob one time. We went through a science book. I said, son, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go through here, and I want you to, in pencil, I want you to mark all of the things all of the statements that are made of fact, and all of the statements that are supposition. And he went through it, one entire chapter, and he found out that less than 0.5% of the content in that chapter was an actual fact. Everything else was a supposition. I said, I asked him, I said, son, does that bother you? He studies economics now. I think that's one of the reasons why he does, because it's so much of that stuff is cut and dry, except for what people come out of it and all that. So to teach them how to think, all I was trying to do was teach them how to think critically. That obviously you're going through a physics book or a math book, you can have a much higher percentage, hopefully, unless I'm doing the math class, that it's actually, I mean, it's actually right there. But when you're looking at, because what I was trying to tell them is that when you're looking at, I'm a history guy, okay, and so we're going through history and so on. And so even in your history book, do that. And I was trying to explain to him the fact that history is simply somebody's interpretation of what happened in the past. And so that's why I watch a lot of documentaries, I read a lot of history, I really like it. And I have found that some of the best history is actually not about the politics. Some of the best history, if you want to know what's going on, is you read the history, you read letters that somebody wrote to somebody else. That and then you get a better chance to understand how life was actually lived. And so, which is it's hard to find, but I was fortunate. My history professor at Multnomah, that was his specialty, and he was a French historian. And so I learned a lot of the value of doing that. Because again, I said, how much of this is fact and how much is supposition? And so, because everybody who's writing is they order things in a way to make a point. And so the more that we can back up, the better off we're going to be. And then just understand that. But see, that's something that we can do with young people, especially college students, especially. Oh my gosh, college students especially, because again, there was a day when we were taught to think in college, and now we're not. We're taught what to think, not how to think. And so to have that conversation, and I used to love it. Megan would call me. We have a 2.5-hour conversation, just talking about different classes that she had, and I just asked her a ton of questions. To get her thinking it through and all that. It was a great exercise for me as well. Keeps the brain sharp, but also kind of get an idea of understanding kind of where's the worldview coming from, and so on. Yes.
I think the other place we can have impact, and you alluded to this when we started this class, is the wider church is buying into this.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly into some of the more naturalistic side.
Yeah.
And I think the place where you can begin to challenge this with people that say they belong to a faith.
Yeah.
Do you really accept the notion that we can be stronger than the creator that you believe in?
Yeah.
Do we really accept that we can destroy or save, do we really accept the notion that we can fix the results of the curse ourselves?
Yeah.
And what the implication of that thought process is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a place where we can begin to call people back to God's word. Well, wait a minute. If we can fix this result of the curse, is Jesus really necessary?
Yeah. And the answer to that, of course, is no, which is the ultimate reason. They're trying to find a reason to exist without God.
Yeah, but now with somebody that claims the faith, at least you can go back to, is this really consistent with what we believe?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, and that's it. Remember how we started? We started this series on apologetics with 3 weeks looking at what if the Bible is true. Remember, we looked at the fact that the Bible says this. If the Bible is true, what would we expect to see in history? And then we went back in history and we found out it's really, really, really good. The Bible knew what it was talking about. Again, starting from the scriptures. And we looked at that as far as time. And also, what would we expect to see? The first 11 chapters of Genesis tells us certain things. What would we expect to see if that was true? And so we went back and we saw that. We saw that what we see in the world today is exactly what we would expect to see if we started with the scriptures. And I think that that's one of those areas that we need, as we're talking about. So we're talking to Christians, let's start with the scripture. Let's start with the Bible. And the good news is we had the promise that this is so much easier for us as New Testament Christians, is the fact that the Holy Spirit Jesus said the Holy Spirit will bring things back to memory that we've met, that we've learned. Of course, we have to put it in for it to bring it back. And so, it really is amazing. I've been living through this in the series I'm doing right now, is the fact that I'm coming up with passages that the Lord says, okay, I want you to use this passage as your springboard that I forgot about. But I read them, I studied them, I thought about them, whatever it was at the time. And sure enough, on a Tuesday night when I'm driving home, that the last 2 messages came on a Tuesday night when I was driving home. And because I had no idea what I was preaching on. And I was supposed to write the sermon on Wednesday and Thursday. And so this week I finished on Monday because I have to have 2 done this week. So God gave it to me a little bit earlier. But again, passages I'm starting, the passage I started last week, the Acts one, no concept there at all. And the Lord said, okay, here it is. And so I think that's one of those things that comes back to, what does it say in the scripture? How do we do that? So again, I'm looking at in our sphere of influence, because the reality is, folks, we're not going to change the world, okay? The world is headed for destruction. It's headed for judgment, okay? We're living in the time after Josiah. Okay, we're living in Jeremiah's time. Learned some really cool stuff on Sunday when Eric's going to be teaching on that. So a plug for Sunday school. It's a fantastic class.
Even what we talked about the last week.
Yeah.
When you and I talked, that we've got a responsibility to the remnant.
Yeah.
We can either go standard, no standards, or complete system, or we can try and find this middle place where we're speaking the words of life to the people that have got to live through this.
Yep. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping at least to show us why the world is so crazy today. Okay, and again, the answer is Jesus. It's always Jesus. That when we're looking at something, even fighting through whatever's is out there, that's never going to matter. Okay, what most is important and what we have to make sure we hold on to and everything else is making sure that we're helping somebody deepen their walk or begin a walk. Because ultimately the only hope we have is in God. And so again, my goal through this is that, I get a little sarcastic when I come through here, but we have people who are deceived. Those are the hardest people to reach. Okay, and we need to understand that unless the Holy Spirit draws them, no one's coming. So when we're talking to our friends who are way out there, wherever it is, in any kind of cult, first place we start is on our knees. And we're praying that God will grab a hold of them, open up their minds, open up their eyes, that Satan would be bound in their life, and so that they can hear the truth. Because Jesus said the truth will make you free, and I believe he meant that. Okay, so as we come through that, is that, so I really want to make sure I end with this, is that we're dealing with real people who have real feelings, who have real hopes and dreams, and, calling them out as an idiot or whatever it is not the best way to do it. Okay, it's a little bit of grace, a little bit of mercy, okay, seasoned with salt, the whole bit, like all the other platitudes that we get from the scripture, they're all true. Yes?
And I do think the other thing that we have to realize, and you've done a great job of pointing up the depth of the deception.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said something to the disciples when he came down off the Mount of Transfiguration, and they're struggling with a demon and stuck in a kid. He said to them, this comes out with prayer and fasting. This comes out, this takes time.
Yeah.
This is not spit it on the floor and the person is converted.
Yeah.
This is something that takes a long-term relationship to get across.
Yeah. And I just want to finish with this, and we'll close, is the fact that I know in a class like this, I can come out like a double-barreled shotgun kind of thing. I do that because of the nature of this class. Okay? I would never teach this like this on a Sunday morning. I've taught this kind of thing before, and never. I would not be this out there. But it's the nature of the class. It's a college-level class. We're all friends. Okay? So if you're watching out there, just the nature of the class, when I'm talking to individuals, and I talk to a lot of individuals, I talk to them on social media, I talk to people individually, and all that just have to take it by faith. But I do like to make sure I give a lot of grace. Because again, what we're dealing with here is that we're dealing with deception and all that. So like I say, so don't use this approach when you're dealing with other people, okay? That at that point, I'm gonna say, "What are you nuts?" Okay? That we want to know our audience, okay? So if it comes across that way, yes, I know. Again, I can come across really strong, but the reason again is because of the nature of this class, okay? New believers class, not going this way. They cover the same material. I'm just gonna do it very, very differently, okay? So we're off next week, and I will be spending time. I'm going to the beach with my sister and my niece and her daughter. I'm going to see if I can bring my niece if she wants to spend some quality time with her Uncle Dan and come to Mastering Motherhood with me. And so we will be looking at changing up completely, starting at the beginning, and we're going to start looking at our Bible. And we're going to look at kind of what it means to do biblical theology, how we got our Bible, the fascinating story behind that, what it means theologically, which I think is really important. So my hope is that as we read it, that we'll have a much better understanding of how it fits together, and so that we can appreciate, I guess, more of what's in there. And then we're going to take a look, and we'll take a look at how we got our English Bibles, where they came from. And that journey, I think, is really fascinating. And I hope that we would be encouraged as we go through that. And also understand that it was messy. And so, because theology sometimes can be messy. And so Christians had to give each other a lot of grace in the process. And so hopefully we can learn that as well. So that's where we're going. And we'll start that next week. So I still have my handouts. So I still have the handouts. Yes, I still have the handouts. So anyway, that's yeah. This one I was trying to come up with different handouts for this, and I just gave up.
Well, I'm hoping Reggie will come.
Well, good. So, any thoughts or comments? Somebody want to close us in prayer tonight? So,
Sure.
Thank you.
God, you tell us that your word, many things in there, but that it's God-breathed, and it comes from you, that it's for rebuking and teaching and so forth. You also tell us that if we know the truth, it'll set us free. And so, I don't think it's unique to our time. I think it's something throughout history where folks can get sidetracked. And God, may we, who know the truth, be willing to share that and be patient when to share it, God, to listen to you, Holy Spirit, to have those relationships with people, either ones that we have now or ones that we develop, to bring that truth in, to help folks see your plan for us, for this world, and what the major things are that are important. So I thank you for Dan. I thank you, God, that you continue to inspire him to share with us. And I pray, God, that we would continue to seek you with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen.